what's up, everybody? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nino Veteran. I'm a songwriter, producer, composer based here in New York, and as you can tell from the title, I'm working on an album. A bit of a different location today. Today we're at home, just because I'm going to be away from the studio for a little bit. But let's get straight into it. Last week was the first episode of the series, and it was mainly dedicated to testing out musical ideas, right? I gave myself a sense of direction by kind of establishing what genres I wanted to use, and I brought you guys into that process. But this week it's going to be a bit different. This week we're going to be more intentional, and we're going to start off with a concept that I like to call sonic world building. Sonic world building is like world building for a story or a movie. You set your character in this world, and you have to kind of carve and shape what the world is going to be, what you want that world to be, or what the story needs that world or universe that character lives in needs to be. And this is the same thing for music, except in this case, how we build the sonic world is through instrumentation, right? Through chord progressions, through harmony, through melody, through musical textures. Those all serve as the backbone for the sonic world and the sonic landscapes that we want to create. So today, the goal is mainly to kind of figure out what kind of a sonic landscape I want to build for myself and figure out what kind of instruments I'm going to use. It's all about experimentation, it's all about risk-taking, it's all about sound design, but also being a bit spontaneous. You never know where creative ideas take you, and being open to the unexpected can lead to really fruitful musical ideas. So let's get right into it. So I've been working on this composition that I wrote for piano that I'm looking to flesh out into a full instrumental for the album. I wrote it as a 12-bar blues standard. It sounds a bit like this. Yeah, so that's what it sounds like. It's written in minor, right? This is a minor progression, and I use a lot of the minor blues scale on here. And the thing that I love about the minor blues scale, it's that it's super harmonically rich, but the thing is, because it's minor, it maintains these like somber and darker undertones. So you end up with a scale that's super harmonically rich, but that allows you to create these moments of incredible tension, suspense, drama, which are going to be really useful for the kind of stories that I want to tell in my music, but also providing variety and really being able to tell these narratives that take you on a roller coaster of emotions. We're probably going to build around this composition, add drums, other instruments, and I'm not sure yet if piano is going to be the main instrument. I might layer it with a whole bunch of other things, but let's just get started with that. And I think the first thing we should start with is probably some drums. And specifically, I've had this in mind, but drum brushes. And I love drum brushes. Look, you don't find them a lot in mainstream music. You find them a lot in jazz and blues music. They give a huge sense of musical texture. If smoke sounded like anything, it would probably sound like drum brushes. They're extremely versatile. You can use them to play these really muted, soft, rhythmic patterns, or you can drive the dynamics up and play something aggressive, in your face. And I layered it with some cymbals just so it doesn't feel so empty, but everything is really soft. Everything feels really muted. It kind of creates this sense of drama. I'm probably gonna layer this with some orchestra, at least the string section, that's for sure. Writing music for orchestra is something that's incredibly complicated, and it takes a long time to master. But I started, writing orchestral music not too long ago. I would say about a year ago, and there's a huge learning curve to it, but it's something that's so great. It takes your musicality, your musicianship to another level. There's something about the orchestra that's so wonderful, right? You tap into this sound that's larger than life, right? Something that's almost deeply polished. The sound that's so universal because classical music has been here from the dawn of time, right? All right, so quick tangent, and this idea came to me randomly, but I wanted to dedicate a small portion of each episode to kind of tell you guys a bit about the things that are inspiring me to make this album and to make the music that I make. I thought this would be a worthwhile to share because there's so much that inspires me, whether it be music, movies, paintings, drawings, news, information, or anything of the sort. All of that inspires the music that I make because your lived experience inspires the art that you end up creating. And I thought it would be worthwhile to share, hoping that maybe you guys might find inspiration in it too in your own creative endeavors, because I believe in all of us there is a creative as well. Let's take a short portion of each episode and dedicate it to what's inspiring me. Hopefully, it might tickle your curiosity as well to check these works out, but what I'm about to talk about, these are things that are inspiring me, and these are works that I deeply love. This is a segment I like to call the Artist Corner. For today, we're going to be talking about three main pieces of music, and the first one is going to be Pablo Sarasate's Ziegenarweisen. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful composition written for violin and the orchestra, and it's so enthralling from the beginning. There's no bluff, there's no fluff. It's just a banger from the second you hit play. And I love this piece so much because it encapsulates exactly why the violin is one of the strongest instruments for musical expression. Its range, its dynamics, its expressive ability, it's all put on display in this composition by Pablo Sarasate, and it's one of the most iconic in classical music repertoire, and I highly recommend you guys check it out. I understand for many people classical music is not something that they enjoy, but I think with the right recommendations it can really cleanse your palate into looking at classical music from a different lens. Next up, something that's deeply inspiring me is a record by Nat King Cole, one of the soul legends, and this record is called The Very Thought of You. Phenomenal record. It was designed to be in a movie. A beautiful record. Nat King Cole has a beautiful voice. He's got this low timbre to his voice, but there's a certain softness to it that really makes this record super intimate, and it hits you where it hurts. This record almost pulls at your heartstrings. And again, this is another one of those records that inspired me in the first place to really dive into writing music for the orchestra. And I guess I would say the last recommendation I have, it's from a rapper called Mick Jenkins. And he recently released a project called The Patience. It dropped maybe 2 weeks ago. Very fresh. And this record is raw. Mick Jenkins is one of my favorite rappers because his intellect, his writing, his unconventional flows essentially put him in a class of his own. And in this record, he touches on the concept of anger. He raps in a really angry way, which I love because it's done so tastefully. And on my own album, this album that we're working on, I'm definitely going to be touching on the concept of anger, but I've thought about it for a while. To write a record about anger or to write music in an angry way is not as simple as just yelling into the mic or sounding angry. You have to do it tastefully. And there's a fine line you thread, and on this album, Mick Jenkins threads that line beautifully. It's almost like he's a man on wire. I love this record so much, and I definitely want to tell you about some of the standout cuts from it. You know, Sitting Ducks, Mop, Guapanese, Michelin Star, Show and Tell. It's fantastic from start to finish. Highly recommend you guys check it out. There's so much great music in all these genres. I gave you recommendations from classical music to soul music to rap. There's so much you can draw inspiration from, and hopefully that'll inspire you as a creative to look elsewhere, to tap into other sources of inspiration, to find new inspiration for your own work. Delve into those creative ventures. They're so beautiful. There is always a creative in us. Now let's get back to it.